church has been here for 180 years. We call it the Church on the Hill. It's really, the tower is really the beacon on the hill, because you can see the tower from downtown Kingston. So it's quite an important place here.
This is an historic building. This building's been here since 1843. And when you look back over our history, it was here before Canada was a nation. It was here before the Riel Rebellion. It was here during the Irish potato famine. So we have so much history that is part of this building that people may just take for granted. People love to come here, they love to walk around. Quite often we see cars parked here and people just relaxing. But there are costs involved, and that's why it's important at this point to let everybody know how much we need their help in the wider Kingston community.
Part of my responsibility is just making sure we have enough funds to keep the lights on and the doors open week by week. But the more important part of my role is looking to the future and making sure that this facility we have here and this community we have here is sustainable for the next generation.
Last summer I was walking around the building and I started to notice stone falling from the tower, and there were little pieces found on the ramp, and we decided that it might be dangerous at that point for our parishioners, and we immediately decided to put up the scaffolding that you see around the building just to protect everybody. Then it was on to trying to decide what we're going to do as far as repairing the tower. We had a contractor, he got a boom, took a look, and pretty well told us we had some major work that had to be done. A project that is going to cost us about $350,000, which is a lot of money for us. And so we're looking for the community, the Kingston community, to come and help us because we need your help.
This is a big project for an organization like St. Mark's. And it's so big, although we'd love to do it in one chunk, we really have to split it into phases. And our initial priority is the critical, the essential work that could impact the safety of people using the building. And that's been estimated to be around $200,000. And that's our challenge for this year, 2023. We'd hope to be able to complete this essential work this year. We've already successfully raised a little over $100,000, so we're already halfway there, but that's been quite a bit of effort to get us to that point. Around $70,000 we've raised through generous donations of members of the congregation, through friends of St. Mark's in the neighborhood, and through various fundraising events we've held over the months. And we've also been beneficiaries of a very generous grant from the Pittsburgh Community Benefit Fund of a grant of $35,000. So that brings us to, as I said, a little over $100,000. But getting us up to $200,000 in the next few months will be a real challenge. We will, of course, be reaching out to our congregation again to ask them to dig a little deeper into their pockets, but really want to engage the community at large, the village of Barriefield where we're located, East Kingston, the community that we're here to serve, and Kingston in general, that I think benefits from having a place like this in the neighborhood. It's not only a place of worship where parishioners come on a Sunday, but it's active throughout the week with various groups that meet here in our parish hall, and people that just love to come and walk their dogs around the building and so on.
The tower, unfortunately, because it was built in 1843, has gone through a number of repairs over the years. Unfortunately, the stone that is made of limestone is just not really a strong type of stone. It's soft, and the older it gets, the more it moves, the more problems we have with pointing that needs to be done, stones that need to be taken out, removed, and replaced with newer stones. The buttresses have to be redone, the major buttresses on the side of the church, and then major work up top on the turrets on top, and also on all sides of the tower itself. Major repointing has to be done too.
There's a number of major elements of the cost. One, of course, the first cost is to the engineer that we've hired. They will develop the detailed specifications and contract documents that we will then go out to competitive tender for the contractors to bid on to do the work. The contractors' cost again fall into two elements. There's the material costs, there's the additional bricks and mortar and hardware and that we'll need to re-establish the structure of the tower. And then of course is the labor costs of actually physically doing the work. And of course the work is done on a tower, elevated, work off booms or on scaffolding, all of which adds to the cost of doing the work. And because it is a heritage building, we have to comply with heritage guidelines. We cannot just put up anything there. It has to maintain the heritage status of the building. And that in itself, unfortunately, adds to the cost as well, to comply with the heritage requirements.
A group of us actually met with the diocese trying to figure out a plan of what happens if we can't afford to do these repairs. And basically the building would be turned over to the diocese at that point and would be empty and left. And I don't think that's a route that we want to go down. We want to make sure that we keep the building going and keep the historic nature of the community. We're building a whole new series of houses right next door. That's in the planning stages. And this church is central to that new community. Every street in the community has a view of the church. And just from that point of view, it would not be good to have an empty church sitting here just in disrepair.
It has, obviously by definition, history. If you wander through the inside of the church and you see the plaques on the wall of the people that have been here and been part of it, it's sort of it captures that history of the place. And once the building goes, that history goes with it as too. The question of how much to spend and when to keep spending money on a heritage building is a difficult one. Because heritage building, it's not a one-off expense. We know that even with this project we're undertaking now, it's not going to give us another 180 years of life. That in the next 5-10 years, as a limestone building, and like many of the limestone buildings in Kingston, further repairs will be needed. So it's a hard decision. At what point do you say, enough's enough, we're not going to repair any longer, we'll let the building literally fall down and we'll do something different? Well, I think at least here in St. Mark's, we're not at that point. We think it's worth the investment, worth spending the money now to have this sustained community here in East Kingston.
Every time you lose something that is such a major part of the community, there's a loss that the community suffers and may not realize at the point that it happens, but as time goes by, something is missing. Something that we used to have is gone, and you can't get it back sometimes, and that's the situation we don't want to be in. And we want to be a welcoming church to the community, and we want people to come and value this historic site.
The main way people can help out today is through financial contributions. And if anyone feels a desire to support us in this effort, the easiest way to do that would be through our website, stmarksbarriefield.com. There is a donate button on that page which will allow you to easily make a contribution. And really, at this stage, any contributions would be gratefully received and acknowledged, and you will of course receive a tax receipt at the end of the year for any contributions you offer. We will be organising various fundraising events in the months to come. So, please come out and support any of these fundraising events when you see them. We hold things like coffee houses, a coffee house usually on a Saturday afternoon, where we get local talent to come in and perform for us, and that's usually a free will offering. Any offerings that are made go towards the tower repair.
I was trained as an historian. I lived in Montreal my whole life, where historic buildings were pretty popular, in the sense that there were a lot of them and people also took them for granted. One of my daughters-in-law is German, and I remember visiting Munich a few years back with my daughter-in-law's mom, and she was taking us around, and we were looking at churches there and other historical buildings, and she said one thing that caught my attention that's always stuck with me. We went in this beautiful church in Munich, and I said, oh boy, this is really well done. It must be a lot of money to keep this going. And she said, well, Paul, we pay 10% of my taxes to keep up churches in Germany. It is a tax. We don't have that tax here. The government quite often will take their hands off, especially a church building, even though it's historic. And they just don't want to get into the controversy that may come up. But if you don't take care of your buildings, if you don't fund them properly, you are going to lose them. A group of 45 to 60 people, that's our parish size here, can't keep raising $350,000 every 5 to 10 years.
Being able to be part of preserving this sort of heritage here for the next generation is something that certainly I would be very proud to be part of.